est ici sur Edmond Theriault on Eagle Lake. They've got here his son Brian has picture perfect cottages that he rents on Eagle Lake here, and he rents also this house here that we see in the winter time. He's got 3 camps on St. Croix that he rents. Hey, beau gros arbre, look at that. And they're right here on Eagle Lake. Today we're awaiting a big storm. On Christmas Day we had no snow, and downstate Portland had 20 inches. Today there's a big blizzard in Portland with another 20 inches. We're hoping to get 3 or 4 inches. Doesn't look that good. We're going to go in and talk to Edmond Theriault of Fort Kent, who now lives on Eagle Lake. On est ici avec Edmond Theriault de Fort Kent. Edmond, you were born in Fort Kent, right?
Yeah.
T'as un gars de Fort Kent, comment tu restes Eagle Lake, là, toi?
Yeah.
Ça fait que, quel âge que t'as, c'est là? 19, this is 2003?
No more than 1923. July 81 mars.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Quelle date?
22.
Oh, yeah. Je demande ça because my dad was born on the 28th
28.
of March. He's going to be 93.
I have a brother who's 27.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So, you were born where in Fort Kent?
Pelletier.
North, south?
South Pelletier.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Puis ton père était quoi, un farmer?
Joe Theriault. Il récoltait les enfants.
Il a une grosse famille, quoi.
Il y a eu 14 enfants.
Oh, is that right?
5 garçons puis 7 filles.
Eh bon, il savait comment faire ça.
Il y a eu une bonne récolte.
So was he a farmer or what was he?
Non, il travaillait, il pêchait, il chassait, puis il trappait. Quand tout ça, il travaillait.
Travaillait as a laborer wherever he could find.
Laborer.
Yeah.
Il a travaillé pour Harold Daigle, il a travaillé pour Fred Soucy.
Now, tu veux dire qu'il chassait, là, lui, c'était pour nourrir sa famille, là?
Ah oui?
Ouais.
On mangeait du lièvre en masse. Du chevreuil, du poisson. C'est ça qu'on était élevé avec.
Ouais. So you're saying that un homme comme ton père, là, quand il allait à la chasse, lui, c'était pas pour un quel sport, là.
Pas non.
C'était pour survival and was for...
Ah oui. C'était pour nous fider.
Ouais. Puis la pêche, pareil.
Ouais.
Yeah. Trapping, too? Was it for that reason, or...?
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes.
What did you get out of trapping? You got meat and you got
Well,
pelleterie?
Yeah, we had no coyotes then, and no raccoons. I never saw him bring a raccoon home. It was just fox, mink, muskrats. That's about it.
Beaver?
No, there were no beavers around here when I was young.
Really?
No, I never remember seeing a beaver dam.
Holy mackerel. Now that's a revelation to me.
I think they had been trapped out.
Oh, that's possible, yeah.
And then they came back.
Yeah. Parce que one of the problems today on the snowmobile trails is, you know, one year you have a trail and next year you have a beaver dam. Faut que tu défaises ça. Puis... So beavers were almost extinct then.
Yeah. In fact, Walter Stoddy in Soldier Pond had started, they had a beaver ranch up there. They were raising beavers for people from New York, I guess.
For the skin?
Yeah. Skins were worth a lot of money, and there was no more left around here.
Oh, yeah. So you had like a beaver farm?
Yeah, they call it a beaver ranch.
Oh,
You go out in the woods there by Bussy there, and the fencing is still around there. It's down, but it's still there in the woods.
is that right?
Yeah.
And no raccoons?
There's no raccoons. I never saw him trap a raccoon, and I never well, no coyotes.
Yeah.
It's only started not too long ago.
20, 25 years, I think, yeah?
Yeah. About the same time the deer disappeared.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I moved to Fort Kent 40 years ago, when hunting started, we saw cars and pickups with the first day of hunting, you know, going by with deer, and now I don't see that anymore. How much do you think the deer has disappeared from the St. John Valley?
Well, I haven't killed a deer in 25 years, so they were pretty much gone then. But before then, I was trapping with my sons, and we'd hit quite a few in Nixon, and Wallgrass was good. But about that time there, they started moving out. The coyotes were moving in, and the deer, well, they were going.
Yeah. It's not, there's a lot more deer in southern Maine now.
Oh yes, yes, because there the deer don't have to yard in the winter. See, the deer can go anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Here it's when the deer have to yard. Well, the coyotes just move in there, and the deer can't go anywhere.
Yeah. They have to stay in the same place, like.
Well, they're trapped. The
Yeah.
minute they get off their trail, they can't move.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really true that things have changed that much in this part of the world. Now, moose used to be, we never saw those.
No, never saw a moose when I was young.
Is that right?
No. Once in a while we'd see, when we'd go hunting outside there, we'd see a few tracks. There were some, but not that many. Well, I imagine those that came out to the farms. See, there was a lot of farms then.
Yeah.
Those that came out to the farms, they got killed. I don't know, they disappeared. They were not around anyway.
Now, wasn't that illegal to shoot moose? People still did it, do you think?
Well, the law was funny then, because if people needed meat, I guess they'd find a way to get it.
Yeah.
But I remember Mr. Labby. You remember Mr. Labby, who was postmaster at Fort Kent? Unless
Levy, right?
Unless Labby.
Right.
He was telling me that when he was 14 years old, his father had brought him to Plaisted here, and the caribous were cutting across. You see, the caribous would spend the winter in a bog here in between Eagle Lake and Cross Lake and the Square Lake. There's a big bog, and he said we could watch the caribous traveling one in front of the other all day long. He says, I don't know how many there were, but in those days there were not that many deer though.
Yeah.
So the caribous disappeared, and the deer came in, but the deer, I think it was the wood cutting that brought them in.
Yeah.
Because that's where they had food.
They could eat better. I never saw caribou, never heard of anybody hunting one, so that's a long time ago.
Well, he was quite an old man, and he said he was 14 at that time. His father would bring him up there.
We're talking 100 years ago then.
Oh yes, it must have been. Must have been.
Yeah, parce que
maybe over.
Maybe more than that, because they tried to reintroduce the caribou here a few years ago.
Well, I think maybe they disappeared for the same reason they disappeared the first time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Someone was telling me that they had this disease there in the pens in Bangor where they were keeping him, or where they kept the caribou before they released them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So when they released them,
the
last bunch they released, they all had collars, And some, they reported some were killed by bears, some were killed by coyotes, and some were, they never found out where they were.
There's some rumors around the stories that the wolf is coming back to Maine. Have you seen any of that?
No, I've never seen any signs. But of course, I don't go in the woods anymore anyway. But to me, if there were wolves with all the snowmobile trails everywhere, they'd see some.
Yeah, yeah, never see any.
But I don't trap anymore.
Now, Joe Theriault, South Pearly Brook. I had a patient one time who told me that she never came to town until she was 12 years old. She never had shoes until she was 12. How rich were you, or how poor were you in South Pearly Brook? Famille Joe Theriault.
We were rich. We had nothing.
Didn't know it though.
Yeah. Didn't know it.
Vous mangez bien, par exemple.
Oh yes.
That's what I hear. Most people didn't know they were poor.
Yeah.
And they had plenty to eat.
We knew we had no money.
So as a young man, a teenager, let's say là, si tu faisais de bon, ça veut dire que pour avoir du fun.
I cut wood with my father in the summertime. We'd go cut wood after. Well, the first time I went in the woods cutting firewood, I was so young I didn't even have an axe. All I did, I kept moving branches and small trees around.
Yeah.
But it didn't take long. I had an axe.
Well, how do you remember what age about?
Oh, I must have been about 12.
Yeah. So you were cutting firewood.
Well, to begin with, we'd cut our own firewood.
Yeah. So people were like self-sufficient almost. They didn't need too much, huh?
You couldn't because you didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And then, well, I remember when they came by, we didn't have electricity.
Oh no?
There was no electricity. In my home there, where I must have been maybe 14 or 15 by the time they passed the electricity, and they put it in there. They put one light bulb, one light bulb in the kitchen.
Is that right?
And then they ran an extension to the cellar, so we'd have a light in the cellar.
That's about 1930, late 30s, I would think, yeah?
I don't know if it was late 30s or mid 30s maybe.
Yeah, mid 30s. So that was during the Depression, so there was even less money there.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the people who could find work there, because I started picking potatoes 14, 15 there, so that must have been in the mid 30s, and they'd hire me for $1 a day, and they'd warn me, if you're good, we're going to keep you.
We're not going to give you a raise. We're just going to keep you.
No. You're going to get a job if you're a good picker. So I picked potatoes.
Now, most people pick potatoes by the barrel.
Yeah. No, not in there, because when I first started, you had to separate them.
Oh.
You'd pick the big potatoes, and then you'd come and pick you had to go twice to pick the small potatoes.
Isn't that something? You know, I heard that for the first time about a month ago. I interviewed Joe Morneau from Frenchville, and he told me that the first time I ever heard that.
Oh.
So you were picking for the big ones for selling.
Farmers around home there.
Yeah.
And I guess they didn't store the small ones. They probably had a shortage of storage, so because it didn't matter to them. I guess they were paying us $1 a day.
Yeah. So it didn't matter how much you picked, but they still judged if you were good enough to keep.
Well, so many young people looking for jobs.
Yeah.
Well, they'd warn you. If you're good, we're gonna keep you.
So how did they judge if you were good? How many barrels you picked? Is that it? Simple.
I have no. I imagine if you didn't stop too often, that's how they judge you.
Now, your Joe Theriault, lui, must have had animals at his house, though. You know, chickens and stuff like that. Did you?
Oh yeah, we kept chickens. We kept pigs. We had pigs and chicken, and every now and then he'd buy a cow, so we'd have milk. And then in the winter time, when we needed food, we'd kill the cow. We eat the cow.
Ça venait-tu proche des fois qu'il n'y avait pas rien à manger pendant que non, hein?
No, no, because at our house there was a full cellar, and some of the farmers who lived up the road, they'd store their potatoes in our cellar, and the only they wouldn't pay us anything for it. They just let us have all the potatoes we could eat.
Oh.
So we had all our potatoes.
Yeah.
That's why my mother could make 13 different types of patates fricassées.
Avec Marie des patates.
Yeah.
Most homes that I remember when I was just a little kid, là, il y avait des cavrots sur la. Il n'y avait pas des full cellar like you're talking about. Yeah. That was special.
Yeah, that's why we didn't have any problem getting storage.
A full cellar.
Yeah.
C'était fait avec quoi? De la roche, là?
Ciment.
Du ciment.
Yeah, ciment. It was built in the early 1902 or 3 because my mother was young then when my grandfather built our house.
So you stayed at your grandfather's house, your mother's father.
My mother stayed there and I stayed there until I moved here.
Puis lui, c'était quoi son nom de grand-père?
Joe Babin.
Ah ouais?
C'est Babin.
À South Pearly Brook.
Yeah.
Now, why did he build a basement like that? T'es plus smart que les autres, quoi?
I don't know. He was working at mills. He was sawing shingles.
Okay.
He worked here in Eagle Lake. In fact, that's where there must have been a shingle mill because that's where my mother was born.
Oh, in Eagle Lake?
Eagle Lake.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah.
So but then he went to Fort Kent and he built a house. So.
Now, besides potatoes in that basement, what else did they store? Mostly that.
We'd salt string beans and greens and cabbage leaves.
You mean canning?
No, he salted.
Just salted?
Yeah, well, before canning. Before the canning came. Canning came after that.
Really?
Yeah. When they started canning, well, my mother got some jars and she started canning.
You mean when you were just a young boy, there was no canning?
No, I don't remember any. I know we'd go in there and they had these wooden things there, and where string beans would be salted. We'd pick up a string bean and eat them salted like that. They'd keep good.
Yeah. Plus, it was cool down there.
Oh yes, yes.
The basement was never.
Well, we had a wood furnace in the cellar.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that was a big house. It was a big house.
Is it still there?
The furnace is not.
No, but the house is still there?
Yeah, the house is there, but the furnace, I took that out when I got married.
Okay. You lived there then?
I lived there all my life almost.
Oh.
70 years.
Oh. So you've been here in Eagle Lake just 10 years?
Just about 10 years.
Yeah.
But I bought the land in 58 though. I bought the land here in 58 and then I started building slowly.
How much frontage do you have?
I have 300 feet.
You got that for cheap, I imagine.
Oh yes.
How much a foot really? Can you tell me?
2 of the lots was $1 a foot.
Holy mackerel.
And the third lot was $1.25, I think.
Oh boy.
Can you imagine?
You know what it's worth now, huh?
Yeah. Well, the town values that 300?
$300 a foot from
Yeah.
$1.
Yeah, because I know the tax is going up. Yeah, yeah, the land is valued at 90,000.
Oh, 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 oh. And that's not that long ago, 58. We're talking about 44 years.
Yeah.
From $1 to $300.
Yeah.
Now, in 40 years from now.
But it really made the big jump about 12 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I paid $50 for my lot.
Yeah. Well,
$50 a foot.
Before they raised it, it was $60.
60.
60.
Yeah, yeah.
Town valued it at 60, and then they jumped from 60 to 300.
Yeah. It would go up a little bit at a time, which was normal, you know. $50 a foot, $60 a foot, but all of a sudden, $300.
It's quite an increase.
Ben, ils voulaient avoir notre argent, puis ils l'ont eu. Some people pay more for their property tax in Eagle Lake than they do in Fort Kent for their house.
I never checked.
Yeah, well, I know that.
When I moved here, I sold my house down there.
Yeah. So you had 14 children, Joe Theriault.
Joe Theriault had 14.
Pierre, where were you in that bunch at all?
I was the fourth son. And my mother was 18 years old when I was born. She got married at 13.
Oh.
She had her first one at 14.
Mais, puis le père,
my father must have been about four or 5 years older than she was.
So he was still a teenager himself?
Yeah.
Il se mariait jeune à ce temps-là?
Oh. Il était frais.
Is that right, huh? 13,
Yeah.
13 you said?
Yeah.
13 years old.
And Joanne's mother got married at 14, though. She was old. She got married at 14. She had 16 kids. But you know, that's not what... It didn't kill them. They live in their 90s.
Really?
They worked hard all their lives, and they had all these kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Joanne, je sais pas ce qu'on peut te voir, là, toi, là.
Oh my gosh.
What is your family name, toi?
Pelletier.
Pelletier?
Right.
Fort Kent, too?
Right. My father used to live in Sherritt Hill. He had a farm there.
Really?
Yeah.
My son bought a lot up there, là, lui, là. Je sais bien pas ce que c'est, là, comparé à vous autres, là.
Well, you know where Bertram Gagnon has his cow farm there?
Attends, là.
Bertram Gagnon that was their home farm.
Oh, okay.
He's built his house there, and he keeps these animals there. There's a kind of a big pond there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, their farm was on the other side of that.
I discovered a film this week, a video that was taken in the 40s and 50s by Jack Houghton.
Oh.
Puis il y avait un camp de lui là sur Browns Point là. And the other side of the lake had no camps at all. Il montre des portraits de ça là. No camps on the other side of Eagle Lake.
Well, when I first came here, let's see, il y avait Roland Nadeau.
Oui, c'est à la pointe là.
Ouais. And Pelletier built a camp there, not too far from him. And then everybody built. I don't even know. I don't know too many of the people who have built from the other side. And this side too.
Yeah.
This side too. In the 1960, there was not too many camps around here. There's some at the point here, a smaller point.
Ouais, Simard Point, c'était Guy Degg puis Norman Guy puis tout ça là.
Yeah, well, now, but then I think it was only Guy Degg there.
Oh yeah.
And Dona Michaud.
Dona Michaud, yeah.
Michaud.
And Pinkham built on Boyle's
He built
Point.
Here.
Yeah.
And on Boyle's Point.
Mid-60s about, I think.
Oh, I think it was later than that.
Really?
Later than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know. Jerry Bouchard has marina there.
That's right, yeah. Jerry Bouchard. Par ça, je pense, il y avait un Labrie, là. Il y avait un Labrie qui avait un camp, là, de sa pointe. Là.
Well, Claude Labrie, well, it was the point there.
Yeah.
It was the old camp.
Right on the point.
Boyle's camp.
Yeah.
Jack Boyle's camp. That was sold, and then, yeah, that's a long time. Because this Boyle's, that Boyle's farm was my mother's uncle.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're saying that across from the tracks on Boyle's Point, it's in farms?
Oh yeah, it's a farm. It goes all the way up. All the way up.
On both sides of the track?
Yeah. Both sides of the highway.
Really?
Yeah, their house was by the big pine there. You know, they're starting to cut wood there.
Oh yeah.
You know? Well, there's a big pine tree there, and their house was. They only tore the house down not too long ago. Well, maybe 15, 20 years.
So most of these lots here on both sides of Eagle Lake that were farms.
Yeah.
Prends comme le Clover Hill Lodge, là, c'était les Touchins, ça, ou les Ouellettes, hein?
Ouellet.
That was a farm. They turned that into the Clover Hill Lodge.
Most of it, there's a lot of farms. There were a lot of farms. At first we could see them. Now they're all grown.
Yeah.
I think there's only the Within there.
Yeah, there's only Within that's got clear land. Autrement que ça, c'est tout
The
des.
rest of it is all grown.
So here's your mother having you, the fourth son, you say? They started with all sons, is that it?
4 of them. After me, there was a girl.
And she was only 19?
She was 18 when I was born.
And you were the fourth one?
Yeah. When I wanted to find my mother's age, I just added 18 to my age.
Holy mackerel, huh? Now how does a teenager girl and a teenager boy earn a living in those days, là? Qu'est-ce que ton père faisait à 17, 18 ans, 20 ans?
It wasn't the same as it is now. There was blueberries growing everywhere, and raspberries and strawberries, and in the summertime we'd be picking berries.
All the time.
And everybody, every family had a salesman in the family who'd take off with a little pail full of berries, and he'd go peddle them in town.
You remember how much they would charge?
The blueberries, these were little pails of lard. We call them 5-pound pails. And they were selling those for 15 cents and 2 for 25.
Holy.
Blueberries. But the strawberries, they were getting more for strawberries.
Yeah.
And raspberries. Blueberries, 2 for 25.
I remember selling a glass of hazelnuts for 5 cents.
Yeah.
And now they're about $3.
Never sold any, but I know some of these salesmen, well, they'd go out and sell their berries, and they'd bring 50 cents home for four pails. You'd have 4 pails, and
Yeah.
they'd bring 50 cents home. They had sold them for 15 cents each. So they had an extra 5 cents where they could buy a package of wings.
What's that?
Cigarettes. Buy a pack of cigarettes.
For 5 cents?
Well, no, 10 cents.
10 cents, yeah.
10 cents, but they, instead of selling, they did sell the berries for 15 cents each.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But they'd only turn in 25. In fact, Lorenzo was the salesman in his family. You know Lorenzo?
Was in?
Yeah. And one day we were at the post office. He says, "You know," he says, "I sold so many of those berries." He says, "I still have the marks of the handles in my hand." Carrying those buckets all day long.
Holy, jeez.
Yeah. And he was talking with Edouard Pelletier. Did you know him?
Yeah.
He built those potato houses there in back of Dodge there.
Okay.
He was the first one. He built those potato houses, and Lorenzo was working for him. So one day, Edouard comes to the post office, and Lorenzo says, he says, "Do you remember," he says, "when you were paying me 50 cents a day to work 6 to 6. And the says, "Yup, I remember that." But there's something you don't know. He says, every day I have full-grown men coming to my house, and they're asking me to give them a place to sleep and food to eat, and they'd work for nothing. But he says, "You know, I couldn't keep them for 50 cents a day, so you had a job." That's the way
50 cents a day.
Yeah.
12 hours.
Yeah.
Oh.
That, a lot of the young men there, well, I was too young then, because Lorenzo was a few years older than me, and he was young then.
Yeah. Now, again, coming back to two teenagers having a family. The wife is 14 and the guy is probably 19. Comment que ça faisait pour vivre, ça, là? Lui, était dans le bois, quoi? Ben non,
He worked in the woods, and, well, they didn't need too much. All they needed was a bed.
Now, they lived at the mother's house.
No.
No?
The first year. Yeah. The first year, he lived at his father's place.
Okay. Joe Theriault arresté.
At his father's, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And then, when I was born, he was not there. I wasn't born there, and he hadn't moved down yet. See, my grandfather was still at the house. See?
Okay.
So, I was born at, you probably don't know that, at Joe Laferrier's place there.
South Pelletier?
Yeah. You know where the road from Jarvet there, they call it Jarvet Road?
Okay.
Right at the entrance there's a house on top of the hill there. As you come up, as you cross Pearly Brook, there was a house there. I was born there. Remy Paradis had built that house, and he had put 2 rents in there, and my father had a rent there.
Oh, okay.
And then my grandfather moved away, and my father moved to the house, where I stayed there
okay.
the rest of my life.
Your grandfather's house.
Yeah.
Now, most families, you said 14, and Joanne, your wife, 16. Most families were that big?
No, but
No?
a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Yeah.
The population of the Pearly Brooks must have been a lot more than now.
Oh, a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Now they're building houses, but there's nobody living in them.
Yeah.
Because in my grandfather's house, usually the men would go in the woods in the wintertime, so the women would move in. There'd be 2 or 3 families living in the same place, same house, but they were small houses too.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Now, when supper time came,
They fixed it so each one of them would have their own food. They'd cook their own meal. I guess they didn't need too much. Des plats et puis des patates.
the places that are very popular today,
Oh,
we don't realize that this was just to save your skin.
well, bread was scarce, eh?
Yeah, so you
white
eat.
flour.
Now, as a kid, the South Pearly Brook, let's see, were you coming to town early on when you were a kid? Or?
Go to church. I went as far as church. I'd go to church.
Yeah.
But at the other end of town, I think I had gone twice after when I graduated from high school.
Wow. Across the Fish River, you mean?
Yeah, I hadn't gone on the other side. Well, when I was going to high school, I was on the other side there.
Yeah.
We'd cross at Bradbury Bridge.
Yeah. Which is not there anymore.
No. We'd walk. We were on the bus then. And I walked there for 4 years to high school. But really, from high school, I didn't go too often in town. I think I only went once or twice. I didn't know. Well, I wasn't a salesman. I was a picker.
Lorenzo vendait, lui.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So,
Mais on va dire, tu n'avais pas d'argent, anyway. C'est que tu aurais été
Non.
faire là, hein?
No.
Did you go to movies, anything like that?
Well, the movie started after, I guess it started after that.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember going, yeah, they had the Savoy Theater there, but I don't remember going there too often. I went more when they had the community theater at the convent there.
Yeah.
I went more often, probably went 2 or 3 times.
They were trying to raise money for the hospital there, community theater, huh?
That was before then. I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, to build one, you know, to build a hospital. But the Savoy today is called Plourd's Theater, right? That's survived for quite a long
that's
time.
moved too.
Oh, is that right?
It used to be on the other side.
Oh, is that right, huh?
Yeah. No, I didn't really. I didn't find out too much about the town of Fort Kent until I came back from the service, started working for the post office. Before then, I knew nothing in town. I'd never been there. Going
Hey.
to church.
You live just down the street and you've never been there. That's typical of those days.
Well,
It's not surprising. One guy I
we
interviewed...
didn't want to get lost.
T'étais tout le temps à pied?
Yeah. Oh, yes. My father did get a bike once in a while, but I guess it didn't last too long.
A what?
Bicycle.
Pas de char.
Never seen it. Well, we'd see some, but not too many people had them. Not too many people had them. That's why my cousin there, Clarence, we're not used to these cars. He starts running across the road in front of a car, so he got bumped.
Oh, was that right?
Yeah,
Clarence Kisa?
Clarence was in. He was
He
living. We used to play there when we were young, played by the side of the road. I don't know why he decides to run in front of that car, but he didn't see it. We never expected it anyway. We never see too many of them.
Did he get killed or?
No.
No, he just got hit.
Well, he scared the heck out of me.
Yeah.
I thought he was dead, sure. The car carried him quite a ways before he could stop.
Now people are getting killed by snowmobiles. Somebody else got killed last night in San Miguel.
In those days, the farmers would all travel with wagons.
Yeah.
And sleds.
Horses.
Horses.
Yeah.
Horses.
You don't remember, I talked to somebody the other day, remembers plowing the fields with oxen. You don't remember that?
Never seen that.
You're not that old. You're just going to be 80 pretty soon.
I know my great grandfather. He had a team there. I remember even the name, King and Doll.
That was his horses.
Yeah.
His work horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a little farm there, was planting a few potatoes, and he was the one closest to home.
Now these farmers, they were very small acreage.
Oh. They'd raise 100 barrels of potatoes. That was quite a harvest.
Really?
Yeah.
Qu'est-ce qu'ils faisaient avec ça? Ils vendaient ça, maintenant qu'ils gardaient ça pour...
Well, some of them would sell them and some would store some. They all had these winter storage. They'd put them in.
Yeah.
And
like your basement.
yeah, but not too many basements like ours. But most of them had holes in the ground there under the house. And they could store it in there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember that. Where they just had a hole under the house, and they'd put all their vegetables in there.
They'd have a trap door.
Yeah.
Had to watch because every now and then somebody'd fall in there. They'd forget that the trap door was open.
Now, when you said that you went to cut firewood, you bring that home by a wagon and with horses.
Yeah, well, we'd cut it, and usually it was my father would buy a piece of wood, a little lot from it was Hector Chaudet, Bernard Chaudet's father. It's now Kutch, where Kutch Construction is.
All right.
Because all this land there above the road was farmland. And we'd go up there and cut the wood.
Haul that home. Split
Well,
it.
when he'd haul it home, he'd hire someone that had a team of horses,
Okay.
and they'd go up there and load it up and bring it home.
So you mean your father didn't have a team of horses?
No, oh no, he didn't have any horses.
C'est vrai qu'ils n'ont pas grand-chose, hein?
No.
Puis là, you'd cut that and split it, and you cut that à bras, là, hein?
Oh yeah.
You can see that, buck saw?
We had axe and buck saw.
Yeah.
And I remember, well, it was later on, we had a crosscut.
Crosscut, c'est une grande scie, ça, là, à deux hommes, là.
Yeah.
Then you'd store that, you had a shed for it?
Yeah, we had a shed. We would bring it home tree length,
Okay.
and then we'd just sit there around the house and cut it with a buck saw.
Yeah.
Cut it and put it in.
You sais que ça a tout l'indé, ça, ces 14 enfants-là, là. Are you one of the few left, or is there a lot of people?
No, we're still 12 alive.
Really?
Yeah, well, the oldest one died shortly after he was born, and then I had a brother who was killed in an automobile accident. He was riding in a back seat, and a car ran out the road. Rolled over him.
Really?
Yeah, he's thrown out of the car.
Everybody else is still alive?
We were 12. I have 7 sisters and 4 brothers alive.
Wow. Are they all around here, or where are they?
No, I'm the only one around here. Same as Joanne. She's the only one around here too.
Really?
Out of all these.
C'est vrai qu'on a peuplé le restant du monde, hein?
Mm.
Connecticut, and
Yeah.
everybody's moved over there.
And even my children. Well, I have 11. I have seven girls and 4 boys.
Really?
But I only have a son who's in Alabama. The others are all in Maine.
But not here. Or, yes, Brian is here.
I have one son here, Brian, and then I have 3 daughters in Fort Kim.
Il y en a une qui est mariée avec Paul Kancelarich.
Yeah,
Comment elle s'appelle? Elaine?
Lila.
Ayla. Puis à part de ça?
Lila, il y a Marion qui est mariée avec Mike Bouchard,
Okay.
and Wanda, she's married with Phil Bushy.
Okay. You have some grandchildren too.
Yeah, but they're not as numerous as.
No. Boy, oh boy, huh? 14 and 11 for you? Hey.
11, but I only have one son who has a son. My sons have girls and the girls have boys. So
The Theriault name is limited.
It's hanging by a thread. Yeah, and it is not 1 year old yet. The last one's not even a year old.
Oh, yeah. Now, this is, it seems to me that you went 4 years to high school. You're probably not, you're probably one of the few in your family that did that, or did they all go to high school?
No, I had an older brother. The oldest son went to high school.
I mean, to graduate.
He graduated from high school.
A lot of people didn't.
No, we were some of the few ones, because I remember walking to high school, and I was walking alone. There's nobody else going there.
How far?
On my street.
How far?
Well, South Prairie Brook. It's well, it would take me 20 minutes.
Well, that's not too bad.
I'd walk 20 minutes. I'd come eat at noon.
Oh, is that right?
We had an hour. I'd walk 20 minutes to eat, stay home 20 minutes, and walk back.
Now, was there a school lunch then?
No.
No.
No, we had to bring our own. And
Oh, okay.
And if it was stormy, well, I'd stay. I wouldn't come out. I'd stay at school. I'd go hungry.
Yeah. Never slept there overnight?
No.
No.
Oh no.
Now that is, were your parents knew that education was good, that high school was worthwhile?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Because some parents said you go to work right away, and when you're 12 or 13, be hey.
Yeah. Well, with me, I'd work more in the summertime, and winter I'd go to school.
Yeah. And most of your family did that?
No.
No.
Well, the girl, because you see, after I graduated from high school, I left, and my parents moved, so I really don't know too much what was going on.
Your parents moved from where? South River?
They moved to Lewiston there during the war.
Oh, they did?
They went to work there.
Yeah, there was work in Lewiston.
And they went to work in Lewiston.
Bath, maybe, ironworks, or whatever?
Some worked at the shipyard, and some worked right there in Lewiston.
Yeah. There was a lot of work there.
But the sisters, well, they were younger, and they went to school there. They were all younger than I.
Yeah.
Almost.
So what did you do after you graduated from high school?
Well, I graduated from high school. I'm telling you, I was not too much of a high-tech guy. I couldn't speak English because we always spoke French in high school.
Really?
So if the teacher would ask us anything in English, I had learned one thing: I don't know. That ended everything.
You were honest.
Well, sometimes I did know. Sometimes I did know, but I didn't want to speak English. And they'd make jelly, you know. When I was young, that was one of the jelly that we'd make, and we'd go to Bill Pinkham and Tom Pinkham, you know, on Pleasant Street, and they had these crabapple trees. And our mothers, well, she'd send us to get some crab apples, and she'd explain to us what we had to do. So we'd knock on the door. We'd go knock on the door. We had to ask for permission, and they had taught us to say, "May we have some crab apples, please?" And sometimes they'd ask us something else, but we'd ask them for crab apples anyway, because that's the only thing we knew. But they were pretty nice, because they never refused anyone, I guess. And then we'd go pick some crab apples out, and then I remember Mrs. Tom Pinkham, she'd say, "Well, be careful not to break the branches and not to fall."
So you're talking about Mrs. Tom Pinkham Senior?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Not Junior.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was young then.
Yeah.
Because Niles Pinkham was living there too, Claude Lebady's place.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Bill was where Randy's living. That was the old house, and
yeah,
the old Pinkham house. And
is Bill Niles' son?
No.
No?
No. He's Bill. His father was named Bill.
Oh, it's Bill Jr. then.
Yeah, he's a junior.
Oh, yeah. Now, was there a mill there? Now there's a Tardy mill over there that's sawing wood.
Oh, when I was young, I wasn't there.
No.
That used to be the area where the gypsies used to stay in the summertime.
Gypsies?
Yeah. It'd be gypsies there in the summertime that would come in there.
From where? From where?
Oh, I don't know.
Now, these gypsies, you don't know where they came from?
No, I don't know. But they'd come almost every summer.
Like how many?
I don't know. They'd pitch tents there, and they'd live in tents. And it seems like it was more or less of a community thing.
Okay.
And they'd cook in a pot there, a big pot on the fire, and it used to smell good around there. And then I don't know what they were using for bathroom though. There was brush everywhere, so I guess they went in the brush.
So were there any trouble with them? There's nobody bothered them?
It seemed they were more or less entertainers, because they would be singing and dancing and playing musical instruments. And
did they go in town?
Yes,
Yeah?
they'd go in town, but I don't know. It must have been at night. We'd see them in the daytime.
Yeah. This is in the 1930s, though. Before.
Yeah, it must have been.
Oh, that's the first time I hear that.
Yeah. Oh, That's why they used to park. That mill wasn't there.
Okay. Well, there was a mill there before that, though. Bradbury Mill or something like that?
Yeah, but it was on the other side of the road.
Oh,
On
okay.
the other side of the river.
Oh, okay.
See, the Bradbury mills were on the other side. They were still there when I was going to high school.
You mean the other side, like towards Pleasant Street?
You cross the Bradbury Bridge there.
Okay.
I remember when that bridge was built. It used to be a wooden bridge there.
Oh.
It used to be a wooden bridge, and then they built a concrete bridge.
And Bradbury was on the Pleasant Street side?
You go up there, and the mills, to me, it seemed to be, it must have been more or less above the water.
Okay. I think there was a falls there.
Well,
too.
yeah, the falls, well, they had some kind of a dam there.
Yeah.
There was some kind of a dam, and the logs would come in there, and they were sawing.
The logs would come down the Fish River from Eagle Lake.
Yeah, you'd saw logs and lats, and they'd pile them in near the railroad tracks. They'd come around.
Now, didn't Pinkham have a store there too? Do you remember that?
Pinkham had a store. Was Tom. He had a store right at the fork of the road.
Oh, okay.
Right at the fork. And in the riverbank, well, that was their dump. Everybody was dumping there.
Yeah, people, I remember in Saint Agathe, the lake, everybody dumped in the lake. And so they did it in the river too.
Well, they dump in the river.
Yeah, anything at all. Didn't matter.
I guess so. Well, people didn't make as much trash in those days.
Yeah, that's right. They used everything they had.
No.
Yeah.
They didn't have no cans.
Now the high school that you're talking about, it was not the high school of today. There was just a building in front.
The old high school.
Yeah, was it like a house?
No. It's pretty tall building. It was 2 stories at least, because we had a stairway to go up to.
Yeah. Now some guys went to the college for high school. Normal school, what do you call that? Model school?
Normal school, yeah.
Yeah.
Model school, that was just grammar school.
Oh, that was just grammar.
Yeah, model school was a grammar school, and the college, well, you could go to high school or normal school.
Yeah. And some went there.
But normal school was more for teachers, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it would take 5 years, I think.
It was all together, huh?
So, well, I went to high school because my brother went to high school. And I don't know what I was doing there anyway. But I went.
So when you came out of high school, you did not really understand English too much.
Well, I could understand fairly decent, but I couldn't speak it because I never tried.
Were you like reluctant to speak?
I didn't care. I didn't need it as far as I was concerned.
Oh, okay.
Whenever I had time off, I'd go out in the woods.
Yeah.
Go fishing or hunting, and Sunday or any day.
So, like homework, was that?
I never brought a book home. I went through high school and I never brought a book home. If it was something that I had to turn in the next day, well, sometimes I'd stay at school after school and I'd work there. Because I think if I would have brought something home, I would have lost it anyway.
So you still graduated every year. You went from one class to the other. But you mean the teachers were teaching in French too?
No.
No.
That's why I could understand fairly well English.
Okay.
But as far as speaking, well, I was afraid to try.
I imagine a lot of people were.
Well, you know, a lot of the French people around here, you know, you make a mistake, they laugh at you.
Yeah.
And they never got a chance with me. I never said anything.
A lot of people like that in your school days that felt like you did?
In those days.
Yeah.
In those days. But once in a while. The girls were a little more daring, I think.
A little smarter, maybe.
Well, it wasn't hard.
It wasn't hard to be smarter than the boys, huh?
No.
Well, that's quite something that, you know, you come out of high school with very little English ability to speak, huh?
But I had done quite a bit. I do some reading. What the heck was I reading?
In English?
Well, you see, at grammar school, when I was going to grammar school, we had 4 or 5 classes in that room. So while the teacher was teaching other classes, sometimes I'd read in books. I'm trying to think of what the name of those books were, stories anyway. And I'd look in them and I'd read, and you know, I could understand a lot of the words in there, but I didn't know how they sounded.
Okay.
When I'd hear them, I wouldn't recognize them. I knew the meaning, but I didn't recognize the word because in my mind, that's not the way it would sound.
Isn't that something? Now, you talking about grammar school, where was that?
At Baxter School.
In the South Pearly Brook. Is that still there?
No.
That building has gone,
No,
been torn
they
down?
tore the building down
Not too long
3 or
ago.
4 years
Yeah,
ago.
because I've been there before. I was there. I think the Historical Society was trying to get it. You
My
know?
oldest son had his first year of grammar school there, and then they stopped.
So this was like a one-room schoolhouse.
2 rooms.
2 rooms.
2 rooms.
And all the grades were there.
No, well, the lower grades up to the 4th grade, I think, they were in 1 room,
Okay.
and then from the 4th to the 8th, they were in the other room.
Do you remember the names of the teachers that you had there?
Oh, from the 4th grade on, it was Hazel Savage. So that's why I picked up English, because she couldn't speak French.
Oh, is that right?
So.
Boy, that must have been tough for her to teach people that couldn't speak English and she couldn't speak French.
Well, I had one of my cousins, he stayed 3 years in one class. But I did, I graduated.
Boy, times have changed.
Yeah. But when I was in the lower grades there, that must have been during the Depression, because all these big guys, you know, were coming in there, and it was Vi Austin who was the teacher.
C'est tous des Anglais, c'est quoi qui enseignait?
Well, Vi could speak French.
Okay.
Vi could speak French, and but she had all these big guys, you know. They had nothing to do. There was no work to do in the winter time, so they'd go to school and they'd just play around. But she really straightened them out, though. She was.
So you mean they were bigger than you, but they were still in your class?
No. They were in the
upper grades.
We call it the big room.
Oh.
The little room and the big room. It was the room for the little kids and the room for the big ones.
Oh. Yeah. So a lot of them just went to school because they had nothing else to do, huh? Yeah.
They couldn't figure out why they needed that.
Yeah.
And neither did I, but I kept on going. But my mother had gone to school. My mother could read and write.
Really?
And my father, well, she had gone to the convent.
You mean Fort Kent?
In Fort Kent. They had a convent there, and she'd be staying at the convent.
She was a pensionnaire.
Yeah. So she picked up a lot of stuff from the nuns. And,
yeah.
She learned. She hadn't learned that much English, but
well, they were teaching in French then.
She knew French.
The nuns, yeah. Now, your father went to school too? No.
He did, but when he did, it's when he came from higher up on South Pearly Brook, and he was one of the first class there, and it was being taught in. They didn't have a schoolhouse, so they did get a room in a house, and the teacher, their first teacher was Lou Willett's mother.
Is that right?
Lou Willett's mother. That's the first place she taught, and she told me. She said, "Well, everybody was in the same grade. They had never gone to school, anyone." Yeah.
All the ages were in the same grade.
Well, nobody knew anything.
Yeah. Ça, c'était Joe Willett, ça, qui s'appelait, lui, le père à Lou Willett? Don't remember?
Je me rappelle pas.
No. Anyway, it was his mother.
Yeah. I met his mother. And she remembered, she said, I had 13 students. And she remembered all their names.
Wow.
And my father and a lot of the others were his relatives. Because they were all from that area.
Yeah.
And she remembered all their names. Yeah.
Madame Edmond Theriault, là, she's Joanne, hein?
Joanne.
Babin?
Pelletier.
Pelletier, excuse. Puis, this is a picture of who?
William Pelletier, my father, and my mother was Isabelle Saucier.
And they lived in Purlebrook too?
No, my father comes from Shorrock Hill,
Okay.
and my mother was born in Eagle Lake.
So how old was that picture, do you think?
That picture is, I'd say 60 years old, maybe more.
Really, huh? Then you have another one. This is of you and...
This is Edmond and I, and it was taken here at the lake,
Oh.
and it was
How long ago was that?
about 30 years ago.
Uh-huh. Il y a un autre petit portrait, là, que ça c'est...
This is Edmond's parents, Joe Theriault and Effie Babin.
Ah.
He died in 75.
How old was he?
Was 75.
Is that right, hein?
Yeah.
Puis ils ont eu 14 enfants.
14 ans.
Puis tes parents, toi, ils en ont eu 16, tu dis?
Right. I only have 2 brothers left and 2 sisters.
Where were you in the were you in the middle of the bunch?
I was the last.
Oh, you were the baby.
The baby.
Ah. So everybody was older than you.
Everybody was older than me.
Pour moi, tu t'as fait gâter, toi.
Well, they left pretty young. There was only my brother and I. Really. I don't remember too much the others because they left early.
So people would just go out and work.
Right.
They just, as soon as they could, là.
They'd go, like I had some in Portland working at the shipyard, so they'd go live with my brothers and sisters and work there.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
worked in restaurants, some,
Did you ever do that?
No,
No, you stayed here all the time.
right.
C'est ça.
This is the same uniform.
That's you?
That's me.
Yeah.
I was 21. You see, the patch here, well, I was not assigned then. There's something wrong there.
Attends, on va remettre ça, hein.
Now, after you get assigned, that's when I first graduated as a pilot. And
Now you're wearing the same uniform
that's the same uniform.
that you had at
I
21.
put this patch here, and once you get assigned, you put the patch here, see? I was
Okay.
Army Air Corps.
Okay.
Army Air Corps patch.
Isn't that
Same.
something?
Same uniform.
Now, you know how many people can say that?
I have, I've had it now, I got it in 44, so 59 years.
Holy mackerel.
59 years, same uniform.
Me.
I've been able to wear it every year.
Yeah, because I see you when we have ceremonies, you're always looking sharp. There's not too many people that can say that.
Yeah.
Now, okay, have a seat, on va parler un petit peu de... You come out of high school, là, toi, là? Puis, what did you do?
I came out of high school, and then, well, the war was on then. I graduated in 1942. I've been out of high school 60 years now. 60 years last year.
Yeah?
But my older brother, well, he was 21. He went in the 21-year-old draft, and he became a pilot also.
So you mean like they would take the 21-year-olds?
They were drafting at 21.
And then they got younger after a while?
And then, well, And then they lowered the draft to 20, and
Okay.
then my other brother went. And then 18 and 19 came out, and I went.
So you were drafted.
Yeah. I was drafted. I went to Devons. From Devons, I was assigned to the field artillery, and I went to Camp Maxey, Texas, in the field artillery for basic training. And it didn't take too long there. I was assigned to the medical detachment of the field artillery. They had a medical detachment, and that's where I was taking basic training. I was not done basic training yet, but I ran into problems with a corporal. Hey, corporals, you know, were big wheels in those early days. He'd come out and he'd tell us that he was cadre. I don't know what the heck it meant, but he was cadre anyway. And every now and then he'd pick on one of the guys. He was a big guy, you know, big corporal. Michael was his name. I don't remember his last name. And he'd pick on him and shove him around. This one day, he came towards me. And you know, he had never heard of a tour de côté.
Yeah.
I taught him. When he came with his arm reaching for me, I gave it to him to the left. And that guy disappeared. He rolled in between, within the barracks. Well, I felt pretty good about that until he got up. He was white as a sheet. And he's coming after me. So I either had to run or... So I gave it to him to the right, to the côté de bord. He disappeared under a bunk on the other side of the barracks. You know, he got up and went and laid down right on his bed. He never came back after me. I imagine he tried to figure out what had happened to him. But he was my corporal. I was quite miserable then. Of course, it didn't bother me all that much. And they're taking hikes. He's bringing us on hikes. Well, these people, they'd walk 50 minutes and break. They'd take a 10-minute break every hour. And when they'd say break, everybody dropped down on the ground, lay down. Gee, I was used to being on snowshoes here all day long.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure what was getting them tired. So one day you say break. We had helmet liners, you know, just helmet liners, and there's this helmet liner sitting on the ground there, ready, waiting to be kicked. I take 2 big steps and I kick that thing, and it's rolling in the woods, and I'm laughing at the beat. Jeez. It was my corporal's helmet. Of all the last guy I wanted to kick his helmet. He never said a word. He gets up, okay men, fall in, and he runs after his helmet. After that I was quite miserable. So.
You were not too popular, that's what.
Well,
After doing that.
I didn't mean to. I didn't know who it was. It didn't really bother me all that much, but I wouldn't have done it if I'd have known it was his. So I figured, well, I got to do something here. So they were giving a test for cadets. They wanted cadets for the Air Force, Air Corps. I went one night, not too long after that, and I took the test. And the next, we took the test in the barracks at night. They had a barracks there, and the next day they called us, 4 of us. They took 4 of us to, you see, that was field artillery. They took us where they had a flight surgeon who gave us a physical. And when we came back from that, seeing that flight surgeon, he says, they brought us back to our barracks and said, pack up. The next day we were at Shepherd Field. I had transferred to the Air Force. I was in the Army Air Corps then.
So you learned to be a pilot?
Well, I was starting then. That was the beginning.
Wow.
It took quite a while. This Shepherd Field, and then I moved. I went to the Western Flying Command, but I really started flying at Phoenix, Arizona. Thunderbird.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's where.
That's a fighter plane, huh?
Well, it was primary. Primary. They call it. They didn't. When you first start, they don't assign you. They asked you though, because I had gone to classification. They call it classification at Santa Ana, California, and there they run you through tests there for weeks, a week anyway, and I don't know what they were getting those tests for anyway, but they figured it out, and you could go as for pilot training, navigator, or bombardier. They needed 3, and usually if you qualified, they'd give you whatever you wanted.
Okay.
So I qualified for pilot training, and I qualified for all 3. In fact, I was better qualified for bombardier. But pilot and navigator, I was even. So I went into pilot training.
Now you say you had a brother who was already a pilot.
Yes, he was already a prisoner of war.
Oh, at that time?
Yeah, he graduated a year before I did. You see, he was in a year before I was. And he was a B-17 pilot in England. And he went down on his 8th mission. I think he told me it was his 8th mission. And, well, the airplane was on fire, so they bailed out. And he stayed a prisoner of war for 16 months.
Holy.
Until the war ended.
In Germany?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a prisoner of war.
Did he suffer a lot?
Well, he never talked too much about it, because one time he mentioned that they didn't have much to eat, but he says the general German population didn't have much either.
Yeah.
So he didn't feel that they were much worse than the general population.
Oh, okay.
And
now your other brother was also in the service.
my other one, older one, he went in the infantry.
Oh, okay.
He went in the infantry, and he landed in Italy. He spent 2 winters in the mountains there.
Wow.
2 winters and 1 summer.
Oh.
And then he came home on rotation before the war ended. And out of his original unit there, most of them had been killed or wounded. He was a patrol leader.
So he never got hurt, lui?
No.
Ton autre frère non plus, the pilot, he was prisoner of war, never...
No.
So he bailed out, he parachuted in German territory?
Oh, yeah. He said there, when he bailed out, well, the first thing he knew, the oxygen system was on fire. He said, I just pulled out the mask. You pull off the mask, and it burned his eyebrows and his hair, and flame was coming out of there.
Holy jeez.
And
did everybody survive on the plane?
yeah,
that was on the plane?
Bailed out.
They all survived.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in the West Coast, it's training to be a pilot. So where did you go after that?
I was training then. Of course, I didn't know what I was going to fly then, but I was learning how to be a pilot. And then I went back from Arizona. I went back to California, Bakersfield, California. That's where it. We started on twin engine. We had twin engine there, It was an advanced trainer, and we had radio. That was another. You know something? They're teaching me how to use that radio on the airplane. I was kind of scared of that. I had never made a phone call. Never had a phone home. I never had called anywhere. And here I'm talking in this darn thing here, and this noise is coming out of there, out of my ears here, and I wasn't too high tech, you know. And I picked that up, but I was kind of scared of it at first. Even my first phone calls, I'd make a phone call. I hated it because I didn't know what the heck would happen.
You're like you were like some people are with computers today.
Wow.
You know they're afraid of it. They don't understand it. You were there when the telephone came out. That's how you felt, huh?
Well, but then I had to learn how to communicate anyway. I had to learn English, and then.
Well, that's another thing I wanted to ask you. You come out of high school not knowing too much English. How did you make out in the army there?
Well, I learned.
Did you have any discrimination? Anybody say, "Oh, Frenchy," or?
No.
Jag har marre des claques, ça hjälper mig.
No, it didn't bother me, and not much bothered me.
No, except that corporal there.
That corporal, well, he had asked for it, but he learned what the tutor cote was. I didn't tell him. I never even mentioned it. Boy, would he disappear. But anyway, he made an Air Force man out of me. And then I went to Texas, and that's where I graduated.
Now, throughout all this, you're learning how to be a pilot. You have to be able to read English and understand it, and
we were tested.
So you were learning English as you went along.
But I was learning English, but I could take tests because I knew enough words to figure out what was going on, but I couldn't very well express myself.
Right. So the speaking was the worst, the hardest part. Yeah. Okay.
That's what I didn't have any practice. And then when I had instructors who were from the South,
oh yeah,
I couldn't even understand them. So that was another thing. And then some out west too have a different accent.
Yeah.
But that wasn't so much.
Ça te badrait pas trop?
Well, when I had some instructors, they'd talk to me on the mic, see? Well, we had radio, and he'd ask me to do something. I'd have him repeat it. If I didn't get it the second time, I'd just do something, and he must have thought I was nuts because I wasn't. Anyway.
You thought you did something you thought was.
Well, I thought I'll do something I think he's mean. I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. And
it's amazing that you went through it.
But when I took the final test, now that's a big wheel that gave me that final test. He was nice, and I could understand him. And then he didn't have to talk on the dumb radio.
Yeah.
I had a hard time with that radio, and he told me everything I'd have to do while I was in the air.
Okay.
He sat in there as my co-pilot, and they put the hood on you so you can't see outside. See? It's more instrument.
Okay.
And well, I just went up there and I did what he told me to do, and I came back. First time I see my instructor, he was from the South. He looks at me, he says, "You know, I don't know how you did it." He couldn't figure out. Well, I couldn't understand him.
Yeah.
Because the instructor who gave me the final ride, that was a big test.
But he did it well.
I was his best student. And here he thinks I'm pretty dumb. I probably was too, but I didn't worry that.
Boy, that was quite a barrier there. This language barrier was tough on you. Besides learning how to be a pilot.
Well, of course, I had heard English quite a bit. The teachers were speaking English.
Yeah, yeah.
So, except in French class, there or high school.
Yeah.
French.
So where did you go after you were qualified? Did you go to?
Well, that's when that picture was taken.
Which one is that? Oh, this one here.
I was a pilot, but then I still had never flown a combat aircraft, and that's where I went to Arizona, Kingman, Arizona. You see, when you graduate like this, they sent me. This is the record where I went to get my training on the B-17. They sent me for B-17 training. Because you're a pilot, but you've never flown a combat aircraft. So I went to see the B-17. And there too, I had this instructor, and all the types of flying he gave me above average, and that's very few pilots would get that from anyone.
Well, that's quite an accomplishment with the language barrier and everything.
Yeah.
You got a 92 average.
Yeah, well.
Final average 95, most of it.
Yeah, but you see here where the pilot, he gave me above average every type of flying.
Yeah. Saw that.
And then I could have stayed there. He says, "You want to stay here and become an instructor?" I thought, well, maybe I. And it was then that they always had calls for pilots for somewhere, and they wanted co-pilots for air-sea rescue training, air-sea rescue, and that's where I applied for that. I feel I'm not going to become an instructor. I'm going to stay here at Kingman, Arizona. So I went to air-sea rescue, and that's where they gave us the big boat. You see the boat hanging underneath there? You've never seen a B-17 with that boat on.
Ah ben, mon t'as dit comment ça.
That's the B-17G.
The B-17 had 4 engines.
Yeah.
That was the first bomber, or was there another one before that?
No, they had the B-24. At that time, they had the B-24, who was slightly bigger, but 4 engine.
Okay, so how did this work, Edmond? You had a boat under your plane?
Air-sea rescue. You had a boat, and then we had this type of aircraft in the training for air-sea rescue. That's Navy PBY.
That would land on the water?
Yeah, that could land on the water and land.
You sais que t'es là-dedans, là, t'étais là-dedans, toi?
Yeah, but this here is it's I'm right here. This is a crew that was in the Philippines. They had a volcano that erupted, and they sent this Red Cross unit to check the damage.
Okay.
And I went as the co-pilot because the pilot, the way I see it, they wanted a picture. The pilot was taking the picture. That's why I can't find him on there.
Okay.
He's the one who gave me the picture. See.
So this volcano was during the war. They wanted
I
to
don't
know.
remember the name of the volcano. The Philippines has so many islands. It's unbelievable.
So you were in the Pacific then?
Yeah.
Throughout the war?
I went in the Pacific. I went to, the first place I hit was in New Guinea, Finch Haven. That's where we first made a landing on that steel matting. Scared the heck out of me. You know, they'd level the ground, and they had this steel matting. I think it must have been about 2 feet by 8 feet or something like that, and they'd just hook it on there. and set it on the ground.
Instead of a landing strip.
Well, it would be a landing strip, but it would be that steel matting on there to, imagine they didn't have it. And when your wheels would hit that, it made the darnest racket you ever heard. All the steel matting was making noise.
Would it move? Would it stay there?
Well, it
would
was
just
loose
shake
on top, see?
It
was just linked to each other.
Wow.
Well, the first time that's the worst. After that, you know it's steel matting, you know what it makes. And from there I moved on to Moritai, and you know, you see sometimes on TV there where they're having problems there at Zamboanga there. We had a detachment there and we'd land there quite often, and they had trouble then there too with the Muslims there.
Oh, is that right?
And that was in 45.
Way back then, huh?
Yeah, and that's what the pilots would tell there. They say, you have to be careful around here because in their religion, if they can kill a Christian, they're going to be saved.
Yeah. Go to heaven, straight to heaven.
The word was there, even at that time. But then we moved on to Clark Field.
Philippines, yeah.
Yeah.
So were you involved in any rescues of people?
Oh, yes, yes. But you see, in our unit, we'd only drop the boat if the Catalina couldn't land to pick them up.
Oh, okay.
That's why, if the ocean was too rough to land, then
you'd drop the boat.
Drop the boat.
So you would accompany this Catalina then?
We'd meet.
Okay.
You see, because the Catalina was not very fast.
Okay.
It probably cruised at 110 knots. That was going in knots. B-17 was going much faster. So we usually they'd have us meet when the bombers would be coming off the bombing run.
Okay.
Because that's when they knew if they had problems.
Right.
And they could call on us. And James Jalbert, you get it, James Jalbert?
Yeah, I did his story too.
Yeah.
He had a lot of bombing runs.
Well, that's what he was telling me one day. He says, because our code name was Jukebox. Oh, he says, that's what they were telling us to call. Call Jukebox if we ran into trouble.
Is that right?
Jukebox.
You never met him though over there.
He had B-24. I don't know where he was. Yeah, I think he was at Clark Field too. And the Catalina was Playmate. Catalina was Playmate, code name.
So you would mostly rescue pilots from bombing runs?
If they had any problem, they had to ditch or...
yeah. Some of them would ditch the plane, some of them would parachute.
This boat attached there, it could, a crew of 12 could survive 60 days. There was enough provision, food and water. And then they had two small engines in there, but the instructions were to run the engines if you see land where you want to go, then you run your engines. But otherwise, the engine as it ran, it distilled the seawater.
Oh.
So that's how they would get their drinking water.
Oh.
And the boat was dropped by parachute. It weighed 3,400 pounds. The boat weighed 3,400 pounds. Just the parachute weighed 410.
One parachute?
Three. It had three parachutes. It would drop at 3 parachutes. And when it would drop, it would go at an angle like this. Go down at an angle, and it would hit pretty hard in the water. It would go almost all the way in the water, and then it would come back out, bounce back out.
Isn't that something?
And it was a self-bailing boat. The deck was higher than the water level. all the inner bottoms were sealed compartments.
Oh,
You couldn't sink those.
you couldn't see.
They were made of plywood.
Really?
They were made of plywood.
Il que ça pesait?
Well, they weighed 3,400 pounds.
Now, you dropped some of those.
Yes.
You did.
Yeah.
Your plane. Who would drop it? Who would press on the thing to drop it?
Oh, you dropped like a bomb.
So how high were you when you dropped that?
500 feet. You drop it at 500 feet. You'd come into the wind, and you'd make sure that the boat hit downwind of the people you were rescuing.
Yeah.
Because if you put it upwind, they never could reach it.
So you would drop it as close to them as you could?
Well, not necessarily. You would drop it, make sure it's downwind more. It was more important that it was downwind.
Okay. So then they...
So they drift to it.
Okay.
Because the parachute would more or less anchor the boat.
Okay. Sure.
And then they drifted. And then they had these rockets in the boat. They had rockets that would shoot lines 300 feet, I think. They would shoot a line 300 feet on each side. When the boat would come out of the water, it would shoot lines in the 4 directions, 300 feet. And that was a floating line, so if they'd come in anywhere, they could just get the line.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was a nice boat.
Yeah, it's quite a contraption.
Nice boat. But you see on the B-17, well, to attach this boat, they had to remove the lower ball, we call it, the turret underneath. There was a turret underneath the boat, the B-17, with 50 caliber machine guns.
Any trouble with that, taking off with that? Anybody ever...
Taking off the turret?
No, I mean taking off of the plane with that boat. Anybody just...
No.
Ça marchait bien, ça, là.
No, 3,400 pounds.
Yeah, wasn't much. Now, how many do you think people saved with this?
Well, they probably didn't save as many as they would have, because they developed this second emergency rescue squadron because they were finding people on the ocean all the time
That had died.
and that's why the second emergency rescue squadron, the emergency, you don't hear too much about it because you don't find too many people, because it was more or less something new.
Now that was towards the end of the war?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
It was in 45.
45, yeah. Now, where were you when Germany ended, the Germany front ended, and then we're going to Japan? We're invading Japan. Now, where were you, and what did you...
Oh, when the war ended, I was at Clarkfield.
With the bomb. It ended with the... were you getting ready to invade Japan? Were you anticipating this?
Well, really, when you're out there, you're just a little cog in the wheel. You don't know anything about the big picture. You do whatever they ask you to do every day, and that's about all you know. You don't know what the big deal is. We knew we were going towards Japan, but we knew we were not.
There was all the time. If you wrote to your wife, let's say, or your parents, they would censure your letters, right? You couldn't write anything.
No.
You couldn't tell them where you were, even.
I didn't even write to them. They sent the Red Cross after me one time to see if I was still alive, and I used to censor because it was the officers who did the censoring.
Yeah.
And
so they didn't want the enemy to know where you were, how strong you were.
But I know with me, if it was you see all the people who would write letters to home, they couldn't seal them. See?
Yeah. Okay.
So, I was on that kind of duty sometimes. We had these duties that we'd sit at tables and we'd have to go through those letters, and some guys would have razor blades and cutting pieces off and cutting this and that. And with me, if it was my crew members, I just wouldn't even look at them. But if it was somebody else, I'd look at them, but most of the time I'd look at
them. So you knew what they were saying to their girlfriends and stuff like that? It was kind of...
if I don't want it to.
Yeah, kind of personal.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that something? So, okay, now you're in the Philippines at Clark Field, and they dropped the bomb.
Yeah.
Now, what was that? What kind of reaction did you have as...
Everybody was happy as could be.
I imagine.
Everybody I knew wanted that war to end it so bad that I don't see anyone who object. And when the second came, well, we were even happier because we knew that that was coming to an end, because it would have been tough. Not on the Air Force, I don't imagine, because by then I imagine the Japanese Air Force was pretty shot up, but no.
The infantry would have had a lot of casualties.
Yeah. We would have lost a lot of good men. Yeah. And the Japanese would have lost even more.
Yeah. And but the soldiers and the Americans throughout the whole war had suffered tremendously at the hands of the Japanese. Huh?
Oh,
I mean, they were...
most of them, the Marines, I think, were the worst one, because everybody would warn us, never leave a Marine on guard of Japanese, because he'll kill them. And we never... Of course, being in the Air Corps, you had an advantage. They more or less took pretty good care of you. You were not too much in the front line.
Yeah.
So.
Do you know anybody who lost a plane with you, or got shot down, or crashed for some reason? No.
No.
So you didn't have any real trouble there. You just did your job, and.
No.
Now you come back to Fort Kent now.
Well,
after the army,
I picked up some stuff here. I probably won't.
Yeah, why don't you show me that? That looks like
that's when here you see this is a picture. I'm the one flying that airplane. See the boat?
Is that right?
Yeah, because the Catalina, they had asked us.
Oh, the Catalina is in the water. Look,
it's already in the water.
Tu t'en viens avec ton bateau là, tu.
Yeah. Well, I came to check to see how things were going, because they had gone before me. See, and they came there and landed on the water, and I just came, and they were in the. They took a picture from a life raft. See, they're pedaling on a life raft to shore, on a rubber raft to shore, and whoever was in there, I think it was a doctor. He took a picture of the Catalina. And
you,
as I went by,
now you're fairly close to the surface there, huh?
Oh, maybe 50 feet.
That's nice.
I was at the controls though. Whenever I'd go down there, I was the one at the controls.
So c'est ta plane, is it?
I don't know. This one, no, that's a B-17, but there's no boat on it.
Oh, okay.
See, but it was made. You see, the lower ball is gone, so it was a.
One for the boat.
Yeah, most of these were given to me, but this one here that was given to me. But I'm this guy here.
Oh yeah.
See, we had a door by the tail there, and that.
Yeah, I see that.
It was. I got this one. It's more to show you the size of the B-17. See.
Yeah.
And this here is my my instrument. We needed to check out on instruments often. That was my last card.
1948.
1948. Then I was out. I came out in 47, but the card would have been good for 48.
Oh yeah.
And here they had asked me to go to Formosa, and that's where I picked. Samurai sword.
Wow. Ça coupe petit, ça, là? That sharp, huh?
It's sharp. Yeah. But I don't want to touch it because. I was asked to go to Formosa to pick up some bodies, an airplane that crashed there in, well, they call it Taiwan now, but it was Formosa then.
Yeah.
This airplane had crashed in the mountain with a general, and I went there, and at Taipei, I think that was the capital. We were supposed to land there, but there was some, they had bombed the runway. So I had gone to land. I landed at another little airfield off to the south there, Cayenne. And that's where I met a colonel, and who spoke French, but he didn't speak English, so he'd run around and he'd, "Parlez-vous français? Parlez-vous français?" So I started talking French to him, and boy, was he happy. I think he would have kissed me if I'd have encouraged him. And he told me that he had made his studies in France. He says, "I studied in France for 8 years."
Was he an American?
Chinese.
Oh.
Paul Tien.
Oh.
And he said, "Je suis chrétien." Je dis, "Moi aussi." Je pense qu'il m'a embrassé encore, on va ambitionner. He was happy to see me. And you know, we were the only ones who could communicate with anyone, because the people in Formosa didn't understand the Chinese.
Oh.
The natives there, they didn't understand. He needed an interpreter to speak to the natives. And he couldn't speak English, so I had to interpret. If he wanted to say anything to the English, he had to come through me. And if we wanted work done by the natives, he'd have to get it done through his interpreter and through me.
Now Formosa was invaded by the Japanese too.
Yes, yes, and that's it. See, this colonel, it's right after the colonel had gone there to disarm the Japanese.
Oh, okay.
He'd gone there with troops to disarm the Japanese, and he had some swords.
Oh, so he's the one who gave you those?
Yeah.
Holy boys! Now, what's the difference between those two? One is
longer.
And the case is nicer.
No, not necessarily.
No. Holy boy, that's a.
It's the long ones that.
What's how I handle the top to.
Yeah.
Oh boy, hey, it's a piece.
Yeah.
Now this is the real thing, huh?
Yeah.
Some Japanese. Oh yeah. Oh, you have an old case, that's it.
Yeah.
Well.
Dress.
Some Japanese officer owned that.
Well,
sometime.
I really don't know that. I don't know. These are weapons that he had kept for himself.
And he gave you a couple.
Gave me.
The Japanese with their swords, though, they use that at all, or is it just decoration?
Well, they were using it. It was more for parades, I think. I don't think they carried that in combat, but I don't think the regular Japanese GI.
They had bayonets on their rifles and
yeah,
not swords.
These swords were more for parade. You see, one of them is longer.
Oh yeah.
And then you have these harikiri knives. That's a Maine. And he told me, he said, this one could be 600 years old.
Holy.
I said, it's not that fancy. Well, he says, mon garçon, il dit, on va pas de machinerie pour faire ça de ce temps-là. C'est tout battu à la main, ça.
Harikiri, that means they would commit suicide with that.
Yeah, that's the knives they committed suicide. They'd wrap that up in their clothes. And this one was a woman.
Harikiri for women?
Yeah, women carried them too.
Now, what's this about suicide? The Japanese in those days, they just, something went wrong, they committed suicide?
Yeah, they instead of becoming prisoners, it was a big dishonor. And commit suicide.
Mais. Puis l'autre, c'est
This here, that's Filipinos. I had them made a knife for out of airplane parts,
Ah,
wrecked airplanes. They beat that up and
it was made in the Philippines.
yeah.
Hey, ça a l'air pas mal piquant, ça, cette affaire-là. So this was, you had that made, you say?
No, they were making them, and
Okay.
I bought this one.
Isn't that something, huh?
They were working leather. It's caribou leather, I guess. I don't know.
Now this patch on your shoulder here,
That's
There
the Maine State Guard.
oh, okay. You went in that after.
Yeah, while I was in the service, when I came out of the service and they appointed the State Guard, here I was the company commander here in Fort Kent.
Ah. Quelle année que c'est, ça te dit pas, là, hein?
It must, maybe at the top, I don't know. And yeah, I was over 5 years in there. That's where they made me a major.
At the time you were a captain, and now you're a major.
Yeah.
Now the ribbons on your, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire tout ça là?
The ribbons, I don't know too much about ribbons. You have battle stars.
Okay.
Called battle stars. Silver is for five bronze, and so I have 6. I have a silver and a bronze.
Huh.
Yeah. Here's a record. I have to go on the record. This is where they get you the decoration.
Oh, okay. Where is that? New Caledonia, you say?
New Caledonia.
Now that's, is that an island around Australia somewhere?
It's an island. It's north. Yeah, it would be north of Australia and New Zealand. And this guy comes to pick me up at the airplane in a Jeep. And boy, did he have a French accent. I said, "Do you speak French?" He said, "Yeah." It was a Jarvet. Jarvet Sénégal.
Ben voyons, tu sais.
So he brought me to his tent there and he showed me pictures of his family, and we talked for quite a while. And I figure, well, after the war I'm going to look him up, but I can't find his first name. He was younger than I.
You never could.
I never could contact him because I can't remember, and I can't find any records where I have his first name.
Now this was after the war was over.
Not long after.
Yeah.
Not long, because what I was doing there was a commission that was going on all the islands to see what the military equipment, take an inventory.
Oh yeah.
They were taking an inventory of all the military equipment they had. That was right after the war, and that's when we landed in. We went to Australia and New Zealand and New Caledonia and Theriault. I don't know how many islands we took them over to. And
You must have really enjoyed that, being an adventure like that.
I didn't mind at all. As long as I was kept busy, I didn't mind it at all.
Yeah.
But
You saw things that most people don't see.
When the war ended, I stayed for 2 years after the war.
In the Pacific?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, I was busy, but then they ran out of work for us to do. You can tell by my my flight record there. They had no more work for us to do, so we were just putting in. We had to put in 4 hours a month to get flight pay. So that's when I decided, hey, if I'm just going to stay here to put 4 hours a month for flight pay,
Yeah.
I'm going home.
Ja, de nu tar niet så.
So I came home.
We're going to try to get a little bit of what do you call this, Edmond? A hobby or a trade or
It's a hobby.
tu fais ça pour la fun, là, toi? Du freince, c'est quoi en anglais? ça?
Ash.
Ash.
Brown ash.
So that was a piece of wood and you...
Yeah, that's a piece of wood. And you see, I pounded this one last night.
And it breaks into strips like this?
Yeah, comes into strips. And some of the thick strips, see, you split them in two.
Oh,
See how it comes out shiny?
what? Holy
When you
gee.
split it.
There's plenty of brown ash around here, huh?
There's quite a bit, but there's a disease in it, and it's not that great. This one grows pretty good.
Now what's this on the floor here?
This here, well, that's a piece of cowhide. I was gonna cut it. See, it's softened. I was gonna cut it, but when you called me, I stopped.
And that's what you use to make your
I cut it on this
snowshoes.
machine here, and that's to make snowshoes. I cut it on this. We made Brian and I. We made all the tools we need. See, we put it on. We put the piece on there, and there's a blade here.
Okay.
And we tie it on to this here, the shaft, and we turn it like this to pull it.
Pull it tight.
And here, well, we have a gauge here, 1/2 inch and 3/8, just a little marks.
Oh, okay.
That's the guy that.
Now this wheel looks like it's pretty old, huh?
Well, we had that early, and you see this is some that's been cut. Here.
Okay. And it's all cowhide?
Bull or cow, cattle. I
Cattle.
use cattle mostly. Because,
So you came out of the army there in 47?
47.
And by 49 you were working for the post
Yeah.
office in Fort Kent?
Yeah.
Puis là, t'étais pas marié encore, là?
No, I got married in 53.
You were 30 years old, you say?
Yeah, it'd be 50 years.
That's right, this year.
50 years this year in June.
Oh. Avec Joanne Pelletier.
Yeah.
Had 11 kids, huh?
11 kids.
Now when did you start
Here, well,
doing this here?
this.
Were you doing this when you were a kid?
No, some of it. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Hey, gros chien, holy boys.
This here is what the snowshoes look like. That's basket, bro. We're in basket. We're in snowshoes. You see this? I just cut a tree there, and that's how I put them on the forms to dry.
Okay, so they dry and they keep their shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put them on there, and they're tight, and they dry, and then they stay that shape. I cut a tree. I made 8 pairs. 8 pairs out of that tree.
Really?
Tree that was about 6.5 inches.
Really? You cut the tree yourself?
Oh, I bring them out here.
Oh.
Did you see them?
No.
Oh, great. I cut them the same way I cut them for baskets. I bring the whole tree here.
Oh.
I bring the tree inside.
So this is an ash tree, brown ash tree.
Those are brown ash. And the one underneath there, I cut a piece. See how it comes out?
Okay.
To pound, because it won't bend.
You have to pound it to make the strips?
To make those strips there, I just sit down here and beat it.
How long do you have to do that before it...
It probably takes me 5 minutes to pound it.
Montre-moi comment tu fais ça, t'as l'air d'avoir une masse, là.
Hein? You know, shaking it up.
Just doing this now, it splits up like that.
Yeah. And then when it comes out of there, well, you the thicker ones, you can split them in two like this. You get the smooth stuff.
Now, how do you split that? You pound it again?
No, you cut it with a knife.
Really?
I had one. I can loosen one. I can show you with. That's why I can't show you much. You don't have much time. I have something else too.
Now, with all this ash, you make snowshoes. Did you say you made baskets too?
Yeah.
You still do, or you?
My wife, yeah. Here.
When did you start that?
Here's something else I'm making.
Holy boys. Now, what do you do with that? Now,
Indian tom-tom.
now that tribe in Fort Kent, là, Westgate Seafood, they use that? Ça, c'est-tu du hache, c'est tout?
Des drums?
Ça a l'air, ça, des corps de patates, là?
Des vieux corps de patates.
Des vieux corps de patates. C'est bien beau, t'as dit.
Vieux corps de patates.
Now, you have different kinds of...
Yeah.
il y en a comme ça, là, ouais, ils sont pointus.
Plus gros, celui-là. Ojibwe.
And the Indians used to make that.
Yeah.
Now, when did you start this? What got you into this?
I started when I went to Fort Kent Mills, really. So I've been retired 24 years, it must be over 30 years, 25 years for sure.
As a young guy, you didn't do this. You didn't know too much about this.
We had snowshoes. And we had all kinds of stuff. But,
now, this table here, you made that too?
yeah, I made that for a plant hanger to tie up.
Oh, yeah.
I made two drums, got one upstairs.
Isn't that? Now, I like those drums too.
Well, you see, there's a rack here to put them on.
Okay.
All recycled.
You don't waste anything. The vieux corps de patate, though.
Yeah.
That's quite a thing. Oh, t'accroches ça. Ouais.
Well, that to get the sound, you don't want it to touch anything.
Right.
Sit around.
Oh, ça sonne bien, ça. Now, do you have different pitches? Some are deeper and some are higher?
Yeah, well, I think it's different.
Oh, yeah.
You have to go by the side of the...
And that, too, is cowhide?
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, that's quite a hobby. Quite a hobby for an 80-year-old guy.
I make some small ones, hand drums.
Huh.
Stuff up here. We used to trap. The whole family used to trap.
Oh.
And it's stored up there because I stopped trapping. Too hard.
Yeah, and is it...
Well, it doesn't pay.
No.
No price.
Yeah.
Here's one of the first pair of snowshoes I made. Those are mine. Those are one of the first ones. And I made them extra wide so I could, I was carrying a pack, see, for beaver trapping.
Okay.
Yeah, these are old ones.
30 years old, probably, more?
Not 30, but over 20, 25.
Yeah. Now this trapping, Edmond, I remember I had a patient 40 years ago who used to bring me a nice beaver skin. I made a hat out of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people had wore beaver hats in Fort Kent years ago. Then it's not worth it, or there's no market for it?
Well, the market is only so-so. And it's hard. It's hard.
It's hard work for the pay.
Here, in the summer I fish a lot, but here in the winter I don't fish. I just fiddle around here. I have all kind of stuff to do.
Yeah.
When I need some work, I get a log and.
Yeah. You get your logs on. Do you have any land that you can get your?
No. I go where somebody's cutting wood.
Oh, I see.
Have them cut something.
Yeah.
I have some furs up there, but I.
So. Collez-vous. So okay, so Edmond, you're back from the war. Puis là, how did you meet Joanne Pelletier here?
It's just luck.
Oh yeah. Good luck, huh?
She came home with my sister.
I was going to high school with his sister.
Oh.
And she said, Edmond was never going to get married.
Oh, his sister said that.
Yeah.
That's why she married me. She didn't want to.
She said, "Oh, he's never going to get married." One day she comes home and to sleep at my house, and I was going out with Edmond, and she says, I don't know. Edmond started staying out so late, and she says, I know he's not going out with a girl because I don't think he'll ever marry. And he was going out with me.
Elle savait pas.
She didn't know.
Oh. So you're going to be married 50 years in June of this year.
June 2.
Very nice. And you had 11 children.
11.
Vous avez des belles filles à plein. I just know one or two of them, but they're beautiful girls.
Working at the hospital.
Oh, is that right? So you have how many that are around here?
3 girls and 1 boy.
The others are downstate?
Yeah, we've got 3 girls in Portland area.
Yeah.
One's an anesthesiologist.
Down there?
She works at Maine.
Oh, is that right? Huh. T'es en bonne santé? Tous les deux? Huh? Very lucky. And you're lucky to have your all your family almost still alive.
Well, my family, we're not writers. My last brother, we hadn't heard from him for 25 years.
Oh, is that right?
When my mother died, I hadn't seen him for 25 years.
He came for the funeral.
Yeah. You know, when my mother died, that's the first time the family, the children had all been together.
Wow.
Because before, my oldest brother, well, he left home. He graduated from high school at 17, and he left home. So the younger ones were not born. So we had never been together.
Holy mackerel. Yeah. I know people, as soon as they could, they went to work.
They didn't adopt, but they raised another boy there. My parents raised another boy, and so when my mother died there, we were enough to carry her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for giving us all this information. Very interesting life you've had, and I hope it keeps up. Vous allez en bonne santé tous les deux. Enjoy the rest for many years to come. Thank you very much.
Okay.